Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
My name is David Allman, and I'm chairman of the board of the Buckhead Community Improvement District, or the CID.
I'm Chris Breed.
I don't want to stop that.
Chris Breed. I'm the chair of the Buckhead Area Transportation Management Association, or better known as BAP.
I'm Bob Stoner, and I'm chairman of Livable Buckhead.
Our three organizations not only share office space and personnel, but we collaborate and coordinate together on projects, initiatives in Buckhead and in the surrounding communities.
We want to welcome and thank you for attending today to our first meeting to discuss the improvements these three organizations are going to orchestrate in the Buckhead community.
We've designed the program today to be informative, interactive, entertaining, if you will, with the hopes that when you leave today, you'll have a better understanding of the programs that we put on your behalf.
So again, thanks for coming. We're going to turn the program over to Jim Durrett and Denise Starling, who are the executive directors of our respective organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And good morning. Good morning. Not bad. We're really pleased that you've joined us this morning. Today is all about sharing who we are, what we do, why we do it, why you should care, and give you an opportunity to ask us questions about our vision for Buckhead and how we're going to be getting there. Denise?
Good morning. I'm Denise Starling with the Buckhead Transportation Management Association, and Jim is going to kick us off today. We're going to organize this into a couple of different segments. We're first going to tell you who we are and tell you about the different organizations, and then we're going to move into the projects that we're working on to give you an update and an overview of the whole scope of everything that we're working on.
So first, the Buckhead Community Improvement District, 101. What are we? People ask me all the time, are you a nonprofit? And my answer is we are not a nonprofit. We're something unique. We're a self-taxing district. Very specific boundaries. A public-private partnership. We're enabled by state law. CIDs are. And local governments have to approve the formation of the CID. We were formed in 1999 by a vote of the commercial property owners within the district. Two hurdles have to be passed. First is that a simple majority of the number of commercial property owners vote to form the CID, and then the owners of at least 75% of the value of the real estate in the district must also approve forming the CID. So that's how the CID is formed. And then we are empowered by law to make certain improvements in the district. Principally transportation improvements to the public realm, those spaces between buildings. That's what we're all about. Where are we? This is a diagram that shows the CID extent. What you have here is Georgia 400. What you have here is a hand that's shaking from too much coffee. Over here, Roxborough Road, Peachtree, Dunwoody. Come down Peachtree this way, Piedmont Road coming up this way, Roswell Road here. We happen to be right there. The green that just came on there, Tony, if you go back one, last year, I think it was last year, we actually extended the boundaries of the CID up 400 in the Georgia DOT corridor and down 400 in the corridor, and you'll find out more about why we extended the boundaries of the CID a little bit later. Why do we exist? We exist to create a more walkable and livable and complete environment here in Buckhead so that it works for you today and into the future as we continue to grow. How we do that? We meet these challenges of growth, increased traffic, that sort of thing, by looking forward, collecting the tax dollars that come from the commercial property owners, leveraging them with other dollars that we can get to come into this district to make those improvements in the transportation transportation network and the public realm so that it all works well together. Just to give you a picture of how we're able to leverage dollars, since the inception of the CID, we have spent or obligated $40 million in tax revenue that we have collected in that 13-year history, and we have attracted an additional $91.1 million to come into the district. So we've got a little more than $2.25 return on investment in terms of what the investment has been that we've been able to attract into the area. Who are we? We've got a board of directors. David Allman is the chairman. We've got 9 total members on the board. 6 are elected by the commercial property owners in a process here within the district. Terms are staggered. And then 3 are appointed by city council and the mayor of the city of Atlanta. They direct the activities of the staff. We're lean and mean. There are 3 full-time staff, and then we have 2 half-time staff that we share with Denise's organization, Livable Buckhead and Batman. And then we do an awful lot of outsourcing. Legal work, accounting, consulting, and engineering. Here's a listing of just some of the folks with whom we have engaged to help us do our work as we make the improvements on your behalf in the district. And if we're successful, this is what our vision is for Buckhead in the future when you close your eyes. It's a walkable urban environment with a healthy mix of development surrounded by distinctive neighborhoods where you've got lots of transportation choices, and you're going to see lots of people out walking on the streets, riding their bicycles on the streets, and gathering in quality gathering places.
The next organization is BATMA, the Buckhead Area Transportation Management Association. If you can understand why we shortened it to BATMA with that long name. BATMA has been around since 1997. It actually came out of the Buckhead Business Association as a result of all of the development that was proposed along the Buckhead Loop at the same time. That development was coming through, and the community looked at that and said, we've got to address the traffic concerns with this. So they created the organization. Actually, Doug Crawford, I think, is here today, who is the founder of that in 1997. We got really functional in 1999 when we were able to secure grants from the Atlanta Regional Commission through federal funding sources to support the organization. The organization is all about alternative modes. It was actually founded to launch the Buck Shuttle, and the mission, as you see here, is really to work with commuters and employers to do everything we can to get people out of their cars and taking alternative modes. So biking, walking, transit, telecommuting, those programs all fall underneath the organization. The leadership of the organization, we do have a board of directors. It's a nonprofit 501c4, which is important for the history here. And the leadership is primarily property managers of the major office buildings and HR managers from some of our larger companies. We also have a direct relationship with the CID. It's kind of interesting because PMAs typically, organizations like BATMA typically come after a community improvement district, and in this case, we came first, so it's sort of the child before the parent. But we have made sure to keep the coordination between the organizations by not only physically housing them together, but also we have a funding relationship between the two. The CID supports BATMA with $150,000 each year to support these alternative mode programs. The next organization, the final one, so we've got 3 of us here today, the CID, BATMA, and then Livable Buckhead. LBI was formed largely as an outgrowth of BATMA. A couple of years ago, this is actually the baby, the newest organization. A couple of years ago, BATMA was looking at how to expand its mission to build on the success that it had, how to diversify its funding sources, and really looking at how to bring that to fruition and identify the gaps of services that weren't provided in the community and fill those. What we identified was that it really was sustainability that we were talking about. Those are the things that were missing from the community, and I don't mean environmental wonky sustainability when I use the term sustainability. I mean the community, making it work. So you can see here the programmatic overview. There are a lot of things that aren't just about the environment that are in sustainability. As a basic mission, we're looking to do programs that are right on the line of where the economy and the environment collide. This gives you an idea of who our leadership is. We've got a fantastic board of directors, and this is key because the organization is a 501c3 nonprofit. That difference, and the reason why we kept it separate, is that's a different designation that is eligible to get funding from foundations. So that's key for us in terms of diversifying the funding sources that we can attract to the community.
Not only from foundations, but from individuals.
Exactly. Boy, that was shameless. You see here the leadership and board of directors that we have. This has been a hand-picked board. It's a fantastic group of people. There's so much energy in this. It not only represents the stakeholders of the community, but also has the right skill sets to look right for foundations that we're trying to attract to fund the projects that we take on. And the staff is the same staff that is supporting the BATMA organization and is shared between the Community Improvement District. So it's kind of we all have the same office that's supporting all three of these initiatives, but they're very distinct organizations with distinct leadership that are in distinct missions that we're talking about today. So that's the who. So it's the three organizations, and now we're going to move into the part of the agenda where we tell you what we're doing, what we're up to. So this is the fun part. We've arranged these into 4 major categories, and we're going to go through those categories for you. But one of the things I wanted to point out is the 4 components all equal economic development. When you look at what we're truly doing, economic development and promoting the community and maintaining its vibrancy are really what all of these things, it's the mission behind all of these things. So that is our focus for everything that you're going to see here today. We're going to hit the highlights. There's a lot of programs we're going to try and get through, so we're going to hit the highlights of those and save questions till the end if that's all right. And so we're going to launch right into transportation initiatives, and Jim's going to start that with the Peachtree corridor.
So we actually came out of some thinking of the Buckhead Coalition, and they said we really need to have a CID in this area because Peachtree is becoming a nightmare. And the way I look at it is they said we've got to convert Peachtree from a sewer for cars into a complete street for people so that it handles traffic better, but it also accommodates the pedestrian and people that don't want to be in the cars or would like to have alternatives so they don't have to be in the car. That was really the original reason behind the creation of the CID. And we embarked upon doing that and determined that we would accomplish the transformation of Peachtree in 3 phases. The first phase, which exists out there right now, is from Maple on Peachtree, across Piedmont, and up to the Buckhead MARTA station and the Georgia 400 underpass. The different elements in the transformation of Peachtree I've listed here. First of all, we're going to manage traffic better with the improvements that we're making there. We're going to put better sidewalks in place so that people want to be out on the streets. Bike lanes on both sides to provide that mode of transportation, doing landscaping and shade trees to make it much more inviting and interesting. We buried all the utilities. We put street furniture out there. We've got not only street lights, but pedestrian lights and much more attractive ones than we used to have. And the traffic signals came down from wires and went on mast arms. Much more attractive area, and we were able to create this kind of an environment here in that first phase. So that was the first phase that we completed. The second phase of Peachtree Road transformation starts right at where the first phase ended. It's what you see under construction right now, and it goes all the way up to Roxborough Road, Peachtree Dunwoody Road. We're doing the exact same thing in this area that we did in phase 1. And this phase is going to be substantially complete, believe it or not, in about a month from now. At least that's what the contractor has been told and what they have said they are going to be able to live up to. There will be some things that will need to be completed after the end of August, punch list items, some of the planting of the landscape, because you don't want to be putting trees out there right now. You want to wait until the fall or the winter to be able to do that. What I've got up here are some images to give you a sense of the kind of things that we need to do with this transformation. We've got the general manager of the Ritz-Carlton here, and he knows that out in front of the Ritz-Carlton there is this big Georgia Power vault that's sticking up, this big block right here. This actually is the new sidewalk that will go in here. That's the level of the new sidewalk. We went ahead and had Georgia Power do the work they needed to do so the contractor could come in and just marry the sidewalk up with that. Here's the sidewalk that's going in across the street in front of Lenox Square. And I put this image in here to show you how Lenox Square is redoing their pedestrian promenade to come up and actually meet the streetscape that we are creating. So they are embracing this new front door, and that is a great example of how the public and the private sectors can coordinate and work together to create a better environment for everybody. That's phase 2. Then we've got the third phase that we have also been working on. This is down here, starting at Maple and going down to Shadowlawn. This was how much was conceived initially and has been gone through design to get things ready to go. We are still working on refining what the concept will be here in phase 3, but we're making progress there, and we may give you guys a break and not get to work on that for a while so you can get to enjoy Peachtree without orange barrels out there for just a little while and appreciate how well the corridor works.
Since we tackled our Peachtree, we started looking at the need to address Piedmont. And I kind of look at this as Peachtree is sort of our pretty pony, and Piedmont's really more of the workhorse of the community. So we were looking at this. The study was done a couple of years ago, and actually Jeff Smith and Kimberly Horn, who worked with us on that, is here today. But basically, Piedmont really was looking, it was in trouble. And if we look, when we looked at the initial conditions on it, we were looking at travel time increasing from 18 to 27 minutes, and then also with more than a third of the intersections actually operating in failing conditions almost all day long. So that's a problem. So we began with a typical focus group. One of the things that's really important is every project that we do, we have a significant public engagement component to it, and this is no different. There were over 400 people that were directly engaged in this project. And the thing that's interesting is there's no silver bullet solution for Piedmont. It's a combination of 47 different projects totaling about $200 million that are going to make the changes that we see here. You can see we broke it down into sort of 2 major areas. This is really, the first slide is about the improvements that are more directly on the corridor, and you can see the type of things that we're proposing to do out of that. One of the key things that we're doing is actually reallocating the lanes. Right now you have 3 north and 3 south. Well, all the traffic is southbound. So we're actually reallocating the lanes to have 4 southbound and 2 northbound. A little bit counterintuitive, but those are some of the types of things that are in this study. It also, Piedmont is directly impacted by other forces outside and accessing the area. So people, commuters that are coming through and making connections directly impact Piedmont. So the connection that's now under construction with the 85 to 400 interchange, that's going to be a significant improvement for the corridor. And you can see we have several different recommendations that came out of this that are talking about access to the area to provide relief for Piedmont Road. It's, as I mentioned, about a $200 million scope of work, and one of the things that's really important is $50 million that's in the PFLOS list is going to implement a number of these recommendations that you see in this study. So that's an important thing for this community. This slide just shows you some of the before and after shots, and really whole goal of this study was to create mobility balance, meaning we weren't looking at it, as Jim mentioned, as a sewer for cars. We were looking at how we can make it work for all different types of modes, particularly transit. There are a number of recommendations in there that improve the transit access along the corridor, things like consolidating the 52 bus stops that are in that one area and getting them all to where it's more efficient. So this study has a 20-year horizon of projects, so it's a lot of the things that are coming forward now, and it's already, I believe, about 20% complete when you look at the projects that are in the list.
One of the recommendations in the Piedmont Corridor study was, how do we address a big problem on Piedmont Road, up at Habersham Road? I presume you're aware of this famous bottleneck. And at the end of the day, what happens is, so many people are coming up Piedmont that want to turn left on Habersham, they end up capturing that left lane because the turn lane is too short for the queue of cars that want to turn. So you're effectively taking away a lane of traffic on Piedmont heading north out of here, and that creates the bottleneck that backs things up all the way back to Peachtree Road at times. So we are in the process of doing the final work to get this area prepared for making a major improvement, which we will see in this area, where we are going to be creating a continuous left turn lane all the way down to this entrance into Piedmont Center, so that cars that are coming south are going to be able to have a left turn lane to come in here. Cars that are coming north will have a left turn lane to get in here, and we will get back to having all the through lanes that we need to handle the traffic in that area for the foreseeable future. In addition, we're going to have good sidewalks up there. Georgia DOT has approved all this. Georgia DOT is putting money into it. And Brian, when do we think this project will be under construction, and what's the construction period?
Next year, and it's less than 1 year.
Okay, so 2013 will be under construction and will be done within 1 year.
This is a great example of how the organizations work together. CID funded the study that BATMA then managed and conducted the public engagement for, and then the CID is funding the initiatives like the Habersham turn lane that came out of it. So it's a great example of how the organizations are collaborating.
And while we're talking about Piedmont and traffic backup, one of the other programs that we have funded for many years now is the program of having traffic officers out there to help pull the traffic out of the Buckhead core area to get folks on their way home. So this is a program that we've had for quite a while, and recently we took a look at how well that program was working. It was doing okay. We said, you know what, we can do better. And some of the improvements that we made were where we were having the officers stationed, making sure that they all had the same radios, not only the ones that we are paying to do this work, but the ones that private property owners are paying. They all have radios now on the same channel. They have, all of their activities are coordinated right now so that it really does work as a system to help move the traffic through the area. Another program that we have just embarked on is a very novel program. The idea is, can we capture video from the traffic intersection cameras in Buckhead, analyze that video, be able to determine how many cars are going through that intersection, how many cars are turning, how many people are walking in that area, get all kinds of data captured that we can then analyze and then do something with to get good information out, either to you in the future so that you have a better understanding of traffic conditions, or information to us or to Georgia DOT so that we can make some operational improvements to help manage traffic better and make life easier for you. So this is a pilot program that we have just launched in partnership with Georgia DOT, Georgia Tech's Urban Transportation Center, which is a national transportation center that has recently been established, the Atlanta Regional Commission, and I believe the City of Atlanta. Well, we said one thing that we need to do is we need to be able to get the big picture, everything pulled together in terms of land use and transportation. We need to have this pulled into a model that we can use to understand what's likely going to be happening in the future as changes are made in terms of real estate development, or as we are considering improvements that we can make to manage and handle that growth and continue to make improvements. We engaged Parsons Brinkerhoff to create a CID-wide land use and transportation model. We're in the process of getting that model all wrapped up, and we have been doing the calibration of it, and we've started testing some of our ideas about improvements that we should consider investing in. So this is, I believe, a really big idea, a great tool for us to use to make sure that we're really strategic about the decisions we make and can test all kinds of what-if scenarios going forward. So this is a major investment for us in this tool. Well, this right here is phase 3 of Peachtree, which is to be built in the future. The question is, what can we do down in this part of Buckhead where we're sitting right now today? This is, as you know, a problem intersection area where West-Paces Ferry, East-Paces Ferry, Peachtree, Roswell Road all come in. And we've been taking a look at this and analyzing what we might be able to do. Technically, here are the problems. You've got offset intersections right here. This, if you're coming out of the Buckhead Village onto Roswell Road and want to continue this way, you've got an offset intersection here. You've got an offset intersection here, and you've got 5-point intersections, 3-point intersections, and it's not ideal for how you want to manage traffic, and it's not ideal for the conditions you want to create where people are going to say, I like being on my feet out of the car in this area. So we are right now studying what we can do to make improvements to how all of this works for automobile traffic and also for people that are going to be in this village area as development continues to occur here. Now you'll notice that, if you'll advance it, Tony, you'll notice that there's a gap here, and then we also need to be thinking about going further south on Peachtree. Those are also things that we're studying right now, testing concepts, seeing what we can come up with that works for the properties adjacent to that corridor, and also work for the people who will be moving through the area. So this is under study right now, and my aspiration is that we're going to have some really good solutions identified that we can vet with the public in the not-too-distant future, and then start figuring out how we're going to pay for it when we can get it done.
Now we're going to move into the next category of projects, that's alternative modes of travel. And this is really an area where you'll see a lot of the Batman influence in the whole operating program today. The first of these is the Buck Shuttle. If you'll recall, that was created to actually launch the shuttle. That was the primary project day one when we started. This is the current route for the shuttle system. It has been up and operational since 2003, and it's another great example of how the organizations are working together. BATMA identified the need, came up with the project, identified all of the federal sources to come to the service, and then needed a local partner in the Community Improvement District to provide that local matching source to leverage those federal dollars. So that has been from day one. It started on BATMA's side, brought in the CID, and today we still manage the operation on a day-to-day basis, and the CID funds the operation. So you can see here, we have recently made some service changes to it. It's all focused in commuter hours. We offer service every 10 minutes and connect the major office towers to the MARTA stations in the area. The point of this service is really last mile connectivity. If you have people trying to use MARTA rail to get to the community, they can't get to many parts of it without a walk that's too long for them to actually want to do, particularly if you're on the Piedmont Center, Security Center side of the community. So we're really focusing on making sure that we have that connectivity throughout the entire area so people can choose to take transit and have it as a viable option. Mobility services, this is really all transportation demand management programs. So this is working on the side of, if you think about supply and demand, we're working on demand here. These are the programs that BATMA does to work with the employers and property managers and directly with the commuters in the community to get people out of their cars. So these are kind of the programs that they're definitely not the sexy ones of our presentation here today, but the next slide I want to show you why they're important. These are the typical results out of these programs. Any given year, we typically are reducing 18 million vehicle miles of travel off the road. That's equivalent to 729 trips around the world. That's a lot of traffic coming off the road. 30 tons of emissions coming out of the air. That kicks elephants out of the air. That's a lot of impact when you think about it. So a lot of times these programs are sort of viewed as either for those people or not for us, or that there's not a lot of people who will take advantage of them, but they are tremendously successful when you look at the overall offering of the community.
I don't know about you, but I'm really nostalgic for those 6 elephants that used to float around. Here's another project that we are engaged in. A commute option is also taking transit. For years, the community has looked at how we can create a connection over Georgia 400 that is south of the Buckhead Loop up here and north of Peachtree down here. And concepts were tested about whether or not this would be a road. It would be a limited access bridge that the Buck Shuttle could use along with pedestrians. And it's been kicked around for, not years, I think decades. Is that right, Doug? All right, decades. Well, we finally got to a point where we agreed on what it ought to be and how it would be funded. And the CID played a significant role in figuring out how we could layer different sources of revenue in order to make this happen. An FTA, Federal Transit Administration grant to MARTA of $11.1 million. The city of Atlanta put $1.5 million into the project. We were able to get the State Road and Tollway Authority through Georgia 400 tolls. May they rest in peace. Dedicated to this, the CID has dedicated $1.2 million to this, and MARTA has put $7.7 million from their capital improvements program into this. And we are under construction right now. This is the view of what the facility will look like from behind Tower Place, looking across to the east. And then a view from the Stratford side, looking across Georgia 400. What I would like to point out here is that what we are creating is real connectivity of both of the real estate areas on either side of 400 to each other, but also a brand new entrance into the Buckhead station there. If you use the train as I do, I'm always really careful to get in the last train as I'm coming north, because that's where the only exit to the station is. If people are in the front of that train, they've got to walk all the way down to get there, and then even further to get to the exit up on Peachtree. So this is going to turn a lot of properties on this side and this side in Buckhead into transit-oriented development. Well, if you take a look at this facility right here, this bridge that's under construction right now, you want to make sure that as many people who are proximal to that have the opportunity to get to it. So one thing we looked at is, as we looked at this big super block bounded by Peachtree, Lennox Road, Buckhead Loop, and Stratford and Georgia 400, all of these properties have been built and sort of faced out towards those roads, and their backs are to each other, and there really isn't any rhyme or reason to the spaces between the buildings and how they relate to each other. So we took a look at this with planners, designers, and the people who own the real estate in this area and said, is there going to be a way for us to cooperate over time to create pedestrian connectivity in here so that people who work in these office buildings, who stay in the hotels, have an opportunity opportunity to, in a safe and attractive way, walk to this area, but also walk to other places in here, and the Fifth, and the Limits. So this is one of those plans where we put a lot of people to work and collaborating with the private property owners to come up with something that would be feasible and that we could do in relatively short order. This is an example of the kind of, funny if you could go back. This is the existing condition and sort of an example of how buildings relate to each other in this area, where you've got everybody turning their backs on each other, and you've got this unutilized space right here. Well, this is a great connection from where I'm standing right now to where you may want to be over this way. And so they were able to look at this and say, you know, you really could turn this into not only a sidewalk that gets you there, but a really attractive area where you could start thinking about putting in additional uses and creating retail space, restaurant space out of some of the parking decks that are in that area. So this is the kind of creative thinking that we've gone through to try to think about how we maximize, optimize the opportunity when we're creating connectivity in this area. It's fascinating. Another place where we want to make sure that people have alternative modes of transportation to their feet is in the Buckhead Village area. So we have a Streetscapes program in the Buckhead Village area where the CID has agreed to put money into enhancing the streetscapes, partnering with the property owners there so that we're sharing costs to do it, but we also were able to get the Woodruff Foundation to commit $2 million to match the CID's commitment of $2 million to go into this area. And this is the kind of transformation that we could see in this area over time when we initiate this program, which will be in the not too distant future. And this is the kind of environment that we're going to be creating, which really is in scale with the development that's there right now and what we believe will be the future development coming to this area.
Now we're going to move into the sustainability initiatives. This is a group of projects that are really about creating community. There's an energy focus and a kind of environmental focus to these, but it's also a quality of life focus that you'll see here. The first of those is the green space plan. This is an initiative that came about because the City of Atlanta a couple of years ago did a study that looked at park space, public green space throughout the entire City of Atlanta and identified Howard Shook Council District, which is where we're all sitting, as dead last in terms of having public green space. We have 2.14 acres per 1,000 people, and we should have about 15. So we're really lacking when it comes to green space, and if you think about really world-class cities, the ones that you want to visit, they all are a lot better than this when it comes to green space. So it's a very important thing that we're working on here. So what we did, basically, Howard came to us and said, you know, this is going to be my mission. This is something I want to bring back to the community. I've served my time giving to the whole city by my tenure as the finance chair. I want to do something that comes home to my district. So let's figure out how to solve this. So it's another great example of the organizations working together. We actually had, BAPMA came up with the scope of services, secured the services of a consultant, and then we had a grant from the Atlanta Regional Commission, funding from the Community Improvement District, and also from the Buckhead Coalition that made this planning effort go. It was about an 18-month process, and again, it was very much a public engagement process. We don't do anything without everybody being at the table, and this one really did start to show how we were all really working together. One of the challenges we've had is that this community has been very polarized historically, and you're seeing that really start going away. The scars from Georgia 400 are really healing, and the community is working together a lot. And initiatives like this that bring everybody to the table are really important in making that happen. I guess the set of programs that came out of this is known as the Buckhead Collection. The This is basically the green space plan for the community for District 7. It includes 7 different systems in it, which are all basically different types of parks. We go from everything to civic spaces and the commercial areas, all the way down to sports facilities, community parks. Neighborhood parks are a huge need. We don't have a lot of the smaller parks and the playgrounds that people can come and meet their neighbors and bring their children. And also addressing, this is kind of an interesting one, we have over 35,000 dogs in Buckhead. Who knew? So we're actually have a number of recommendations in here that address dog parks. And that's not only just for the kind of destination dog parks, but for those of you who live in the high-rise residential areas, you need a place to go walk your dog, to curb your dog. So there's significant recommendations for that. Conservation, like the Blue Heron Nature Preserve. Have any of you ever been there and are aware of it? Not many, and it's a great resource in the community where you really feel like you're in the middle of nature. And then also looking at our streets and making complete streets instead of just sewers for cars. So this collection identifies 106 acres that need to be added to our green space system. Any of you who are real estate people in the audience who know the value of an acre in Buckhead know what that price tag looks like. It's not inexpensive, so we really need to be smart about how we're moving things forward with this. We actually are already seeing a number of things moving forward in terms of a few different parks that we're getting in place, and some of the zoning initiatives that we'll show you later are implementing recommendations directly out of this. The next program is our hazardous waste collection event, or our eco collection. We have done this program twice now. It's an annual event that we sponsor with Yolanda Adrian and Howard Shook. And what this is a time for all of the Buckhead residents and businesses to collect all of the things that they don't know how to get rid of properly, so they don't end up in the landfill or medications don't end up in our water and come back to haunt us later. We take everything from light bulbs and batteries to paint, to oil-based paint, to chemicals, yard waste, pesticides, can't say that today. All of those things come into play here. Typical events, about 500 people, and some of the key things we've gotten first year, my favorite thing was we got 60 gallons of meds. You can picture that? 60 milk jugs up here just full of pills. That's what we collected. We also had a jar of mercury that was brought in, and we made sure that all of those things are disposed of properly. Some of them are recycled, but others that can be recycled are actually disposed of by an organization that does the Gulf cleanup. So building on the recycling program, recycling is done by the city for the residents, but it's really not done in the commercial sector in any sort of coordinated fashion. And that's something we wanted to change. We really wanted to look at this, to put together a community-wide program where all of the commercial side was working together, so we had an ability to collect some data and understand what we're really achieving in terms of recycling. We are working on this program. It's actually we've got 8 participating partners on it already. What we're doing essentially is working with our partner, Sustainable Solutions Group. We're leveraging the buying power of all the buildings in the area. We're coming in and analyzing the waste hauling contracts, right-sizing those to cut the cost for the property owner, and then focusing on the diversion to decrease the amount of waste that's going to landfills. This program is pretty groundbreaking because it is leveraging the buying power. It's also really attractive to the trash haulers because we're creating route density for them. You know, if you're a portfolio manager, you think, well, I can bid out all my buildings at once. If you're the trash hauler, there's no savings in that for them, but if all those buildings are in one place, they've got a lot better ability to direct that. So we're taking advantage of that and leveraging that to make a recycling program for the whole community. And actually all the other office markets are starting to copy us on that program. We also are just about to embark on the Better Buildings Challenge. Many of you that work or are down in the Midtown and downtown areas are probably aware of this. It's an energy-focused program. The entire goal is reducing energy consumption for the building 20% by 2020. So you'll see us in the next year jumping into this program. It's tremendously successful. One of the things that's so interesting about it is Atlanta is leading the entire nation on this program. And y'all know we're not typically in the lead when it comes to environmental programs. So we're really excited to be a part of that. What this does is provides free energy audits for the buildings and then helps you by connecting you with the services and the financial markets and mechanisms available to deliver those services. So this is coming in 2013. Now we're going to move into the initiatives that we call Creating Community for Quality of Life.
Well, one thing that you expect of us is that we're going to have a clean and safe environment. And so we take that responsibility seriously. We make sure that we're out there picking up trash, taking care of any graffiti that gets created. We're making sure that we're taking care of what has been planted in the area, so we have contracts to take care of the landscaping. This is going to be a well-maintained and attractive area as long as we're around to take your tax dollars and invest them in the area. So we're going to be taking care of those improvements that we have been making and will be making in the future. Another program in terms of creating a safe environment, which is unique for a quality place, is we partnered with the Atlanta Police Foundation to put public cameras out there, video cameras, in places where the police have said, we really would like to be able to see this part of Buckhead, that part of Buckhead, and we're talking about the public realm here, not private places. And they are able to collect the video that's captured in the system. That video from these new cameras, which are going up right now in Buckhead, goes to this video integration center in downtown Atlanta, and they are able to do analytics on that. They're able to solve crimes by looking at what has happened in the past, but they also have the capability of having the software there alert them to something that's suspicious, so that they can zoom in on that and perhaps direct police officers there. A second program we have is we want to have the police officers who are patrolling the area to be able to live in the Buckhead area as well. I know that the Buckhead Coalition has participated in this program with the Atlanta Police Foundation. We are as well. The Atlanta Police Foundation is helping with financial assistance for police officers so that they can afford to live in apartments or for sale housing in Buckhead. We are then doubling that. They're giving them $1,000, we're giving them $2,000, so it's a more attractive option to be able to allow the police officers to live where they work. So this is an important program for us as well.
This is my fun part of the presentation, the Georgia 400 Trail. You've been seeing a lot of this in the media lately. This is sort of LBI's signature project. This is a multi-use trail similar to what you're used to with Path Foundation and Over Common Trail that goes all the way from Georgia 400 Toll Plaza all the way down to where 85 crosses Piedmont, where Rollins is on the south end. It's 5.2 miles. And the thing that's really neat about this is, as I mentioned, right-of-way in this area is so expensive that when we go to look at doing new projects, we've got a significant cost associated with the land. This project is almost entirely in public ownership already. We're working within the DOT right-of-way along 400 to get it done. So that's a significant cost savings to the project. To give you an idea of it, it is a partnership, again, between the organizations where it's LBI working with the Community Improvement District and then also with the Path Foundation. So we're creating a partnership to make sure we have all of the resources at the table and the expertise to deliver the project. These three organizations are working together with the City of Atlanta and with DOT to make this a reality. And what I'm going to do now is sort of walk you through the trail from stem to stern. It's a really exciting, the thing that's I think the kind of coolest part about the trail is that it's basically 5 different trails in one. It is completely different in character from top to bottom. This slide shows you some of the importance of it. It's the connectivity that is actually provided. Almost 45,000 residents live within a bike ride to the future trail. That's tremendous. This gives you an idea of how different it is from all the different segments. These are typical sections that are going to be throughout the corridor. So very different. So I'm going to start at segment 1. This is Gordon's Drive, basically just below the toll plaza on 400 where Mountain Way comes under the highway itself. As you can see over here on the right, the highway is actually 4 stories up at this point. So this is a really key area where we're working with the community to develop a park here, and the trail actually connects right through the middle of it. So the next slide is going to give you an idea of what this looks like. The next segment is where Wayuga Road, Sarah Smith Elementary are. So kind of getting into this part of the community. This is the bridge that Jim mentioned before connecting to the MARTA station. So we're coming down right here on the west side of Georgia 400. And the next slide is going to show you the first 2 sections. This is what it's going to look like for the most part. One of the key things I want to point out here is the sound walls. You all see them every day. You know how wonderfully beautiful they are. And they are actually what we're up against when we're dealing with figuring out how to design this corridor. So what we've been doing is really focusing on embracing the sound wall and figuring out how we're going to design it to make it an asset rather than this detractor to the project. So we're looking at things like breaking through with different material. There are actually new materials that have the same sound blocking characteristics but are opaque. They can be colored, they can be clear, they can basically create windows in that wall to allow sunlight to come through to really break up the feel of it being too closed in. We're looking at that. We're also looking at opportunities to really interpret our history as we go along the trail. One of the key things is in the green space plan is using the history and stories of the community to tie all of the different projects together. And this trail actually has several different places along it where there's some significant stories that can be told. After we have that I guess I would call that urban section. Then we get into the commercial core of the community. So this is where our character completely changes on the trail. So now we're in an urban environment. We're coming right into the middle of Tower Place. This is Tower Place Park that at the end of last year, Region Partners actually placed into a conservation easement, so it will be a park forever. And as Jim mentioned earlier, here's some of the connections. The MARTA connection is right here. So the trail comes right up, takes advantage of the new northern concourse to the MARTA station, accesses the park here, and continues on up to take place on the Peachtree corridor as well. Now it dives into the Peachtree Park neighborhood, right between the Intercontinental Hotel and Embassy Suites. We go back into the neighborhood there. These are some of the routings that we're looking at this point. We're probably headed towards this option. We're working with the neighborhood right now. And the next few slides actually show you what it could look like. Again, a completely different character. You're on the street in a historic neighborhood here. So you've gone from the sort of rural section to the commercial core to a historic neighborhood. Then once you get out of the neighborhood, you move into the part that's below Lenox Mall, where most of y'all are probably familiar with the Gordon Bynum pedestrian bridge that's behind Lenox that goes over 400. This is where we are. So the bridge is actually right here. We're getting into a very natural section here. This is not an actual picture, but it's pretty similar to the conditions that are out there. We've got a wetland that's a GDOT detention pond that you drive by every day if you're on 400, and it has the opportunity to really become an asset and a more sort of ecological feel to it to have that on the trail. So yet again, a completely different feel as you go down the corridor. Next, we're coming into the top of Miami Circle. This is where Eclipse de Luna and all the art galleries are. There's a lot of land that's up there that is owned by MARTA. We're working to get that transferred into a public space. Right now, we're focusing on getting the trail through there, but it's got a tremendous opportunity to really activate Miami Circle. If you think about being a visitor to the community, you're staying in the Intercontinental Hotel, quick stroll down the trail to go to Eclipse de Luna and go to some of the galleries. How fantastic would that be? And this is what the space looks like now. You see the MARTA rail running right through it along with CSX, and this is what it is envisioned to be. So it's really taking some of those dead spaces in the community and leveraging those into some great areas. We then come down into Lindbergh, and this is going to be more of an on-street kind of approach here, so a lot more urban section that we're getting into. What's real interesting, though, is down here at Peachtree Creek, we connect with the Beltline as well as with the South Fork Conservancy's nature trails that go all the way over to Emory. These are some examples of what it looks like now and what our plans are to activate it into the trail in the future. So it's a really exciting project. It's underway right now. We are anticipating, we're in the middle of design at this point. We're anticipating completing design in probably about May of next year and moving to construction after that. It's amazing how fast this project is moving. We keep saying it's got 60 desks on it. Even the railroad is working with us. So now I'm going to move into two different rezoning projects. We've gotten into transportation, and now we're shifting over and getting into land use. Because all of you always hear, you've got to do transportation and land use together. So we've started playing in that arena too. And our first foray into that was the rezoning of the Buckhead Village, which is known as SCI 9. And our consultant that worked with us on that, Eric Boswood, is here today as well. This was our first work on zoning, and these are some of the examples of the types of the developments that either are coming through Oliver Macmillan or are ones that we want to see, types that we want to see out of this area. We did some really innovative things in this area that I want to talk about a little bit in the next couple slides. The first of those is we recognize that the village isn't the same throughout the whole area. It has distinctly different characters in the different areas. So you can see we split it into different areas based on what those were. You can see how that lays out on the map over there. And each of those different areas is treated differently. It's got different design standards, different things that we're trying to make happen there. This is one of the key things we did. We always take an approach that is not just regulatory, but is also incentive-based, so we do carrot and stick. This is one of the carrots that's in there. We have a base of density that you're allowed to get, but then we want to get you to do certain things that are listed here, so we add density as an incentive to make those things happen. So basically, you take what you're allowed to do and then build on top of it for all the good features that you add to your development. This is a key thing. This is transfer development rights. This was never done anywhere in the city before, so this is pretty groundbreaking that we did this. We had a problem in the area that all of the density is located along the Peachtree spine, and then the green area that you see here more over towards Piedmont didn't have enough density to actually make the development transition to a more urban section. With development was occurring over here, the zoning actually forced it to be more suburban in character, which is not what we wanted. We also had to balance that with the neighborhood desire to not add density to the whole area. So what we did is say, okay, we need to balance it out. So we created what's called transfer development rights and allowed you to take square footage that you don't use here and transfer it over to development in the other areas. So you send it from the red over to the green. And how that works is basically you use all those incentives we gave you, and you get to where you actually have this much you're allowed to build, but then you only build this much, so you have all of that sort of empty block that you can transfer to another area. So it's a little bit of inside baseball, but the basic overview is we're spreading out the density across the whole area, which is going to make it a lot more interesting in terms of character and make the Piedmont side of things able to become more urban in nature. We also, of course, did streetscape standards. One of our key things, as you've heard, is creating a walkable environment. So we create a hierarchy of streets with Peachtree as the primary, Piedmont, Roswell secondary, and then all the local streets. And we designate a section for each of those to make sure that they have a cohesiveness throughout them, as well as a very walkable environment. So we had so much fun with doing the village that we decided we needed to come over and do the commercial core as well. So that's known as SPI 12. What we had going on in SPI 12 was layers and layers and layers of zoning that were all together, and then we had conditions on all the developments, so nobody could really tell exactly what they had without a pretty major research project going on to figure it out. So there's some similarities between the two efforts here, but there are also some key differences that I'll point out. First of those, just like the village, we divided it into character areas. So pretty much the entire commercial core is multi-use, mixed use, but then the residential area is really focused over here on Roxborough Road. It's just intended to be really higher density, sort of moderate density residential with supporting commercial for it. So that's the overall vision for the area. And then we decided that we were going to actually move to a form-based approach to zoning. This is groundbreaking. This is something that wasn't done before. We decided to say, you know what, we don't care about density. Nobody knows what it is anyway, unless they're an architect or a site developer. Everybody understands building height, and so let's move to that. So what we did was establish a baseline height that everyone in the area is allowed to have, and that was based on some of the existing zoning. And then we took characteristics of the area and allowed certain parts to get into those higher heights based on those characteristics of where they are. The key things we were using on that is if it's on the Peachtree spine, should be higher. If it's close to the transit station, should be higher. So we're really trying to create a transit-oriented area with this. And then we moved into this concept called block size that is very counterintuitive, but it actually feeds into the height of what we're trying to do here.
Hey Denise, let me interrupt you here. You said a couple of times, we decided. Could you explain the we?
Yeah, again, with all of the projects that we do, we have steering committees. It's never just Jim and I in the back room kind of figuring it out. And this is, in our perfect world, we had a steering committee that was represented by, it had all of the surrounding neighborhoods, plus all of the different types of development. We had retail development, malls, as well as the commercial and office and hotels on the committee that developed this. We also then went out for public input several times throughout the process. We also went through the city's full approval process. So then the block concept, basically, part of the problem that we have in the community is we don't have a grid network, and that really causes a lot of issues for us from a transportation perspective. So we are really looking to create that grid and help break up some of the area where we have blocks that are not particularly walkable and are at a more suburban scale. We wanted to get those into a more urban footprint. So we created this block concept, and basically, the smaller your block, the more you break up your site, the more height you get. It's a little counterintuitive, isn't it? But basically, you're trying to get smaller, walkable, urban development by doing that. This is an important concept, too, from the neighborhood perspective. There's this it's called the transitional height line. Basically, this is the protection between the commercial core and the surrounding neighborhood. We strengthened that in this area to make sure that our neighborhoods were not adversely impacted by the development. So places where it didn't exist previously, we put that in and also strengthened it in some of the sort of inside baseball kind of ways. But it's one of the key things is making sure that our neighborhoods retain their character and are, continue to be an asset to the entire community. And of course, we established streetscape standards using the same type of approach of hierarchy of streets and setting the different streetscape look and how wide the sidewalks are, what kind of trees can be used, what the spacing is, all those kinds of standard things that you expect to see. So we did that again here as well. And finally, we also took the carrot and stick approach, and one of the things we really wanted to ensure in the community that was happening was that we had things go green. There's a lot of discussion about this within the steering committee, and the general thought was we didn't want to regulate it because there's not really one sort of accepted standard, but we wanted to incentivize it. So any development that meets these 4 characteristics is eligible to receive either additional height or expedited permitting through the City of Atlanta. So that's a key. What we're really trying to do is make sure that some of the things that we know ourselves to be in the community are reflected in our zoning code. So those really become almost marketing tools for the community. It's a little bit of a strange way of looking at them, but they really do work that way.
So if we're doing all this great stuff within the CID and the area surrounding it, we want to have a great front door, or we want to have great front doors, plural. If you're coming into Buckhead from Georgia 400, you get off 400 and you're still on this expansive concrete suburban arterial, and you're greeted by a giraffe on the side of a shopping center, which is okay, but we thought, can we do something better with this civic space to create a real front door that announces to people, welcome to Buckhead, slow down, enjoy the trip through it, and look at how much we care about this place. And so we're in the process right now of exploring what we could do at this Lenox Road, Buckhead Loop, Georgia 400 intersection to create a great gateway into Buckhead. So this is one of the latest things that we're looking at right now. This is not a final concept, but this is sort of where we are at the moment as we're exploring what we'd like to create and what we can afford to do. So this is the latest thing there. This is sort of a wrap-up slide here. The things that I'm hoping you have gathered from this is that there's significant cooperation among the different organizations here. We're trying to leverage our strengths and work together, complement each other. There are a variety of interrelated activities. We opened with sort of the supply of the transportation infrastructure. We then went to how we manage demand so that supply and demand are working together to create the best opportunity for us. We're looking at land use and transportation and creating a quality public realm. And we believe that the future of Buckhead really is in good shape as we are working together with you to take care of this place, to prepare for the future, and to make sure that we will continue to be prosperous going into the future. At this time, we'd like to give you an opportunity to ask questions of us, and then we're going to wrap up at the end with a little sales pitch on my part. So if you have questions, Tom, could you come and move this microphone stand back so that folks can get to it? And so if you have a question, you come up and speak into the microphone. That will make sure everybody can hear you. And please, somebody have a question.
Jim, in the commercial areas where you're creating pedestrian walkways, are there financial outlays associated with that, or do the commercial landowners see additional value that is going to be, that they're going to get from the fact that this will occur?
Yeah, it's not an either or, it's a this and that. There will be a need to invest to make it happen, and the commercial property owners do agree that this is an amenity, an asset, a value enhancer, and it's worth participating and partnering with the CID to make the necessary investments to do it. The question is, are we going to come up with an elegant solution that's cost effective, that people are going to use? And so we're being really careful about thinking on everything through before we make a decision. Let's buy that. Let's build this. So this is the process that we're going through right now. Was our presentation so complete that you have no question that has gone unanswered? You know, we advertised something. We said, come and have the answers to your questions. And one of the questions that we threw out there is, why are all those bucks out on the street? And I want to let Denise actually answer that question right now, because I'm the one who made the shameless pitch about making contributions that are tax deductible to Livable Buckhead so we can do good stuff. So Denise, why are those bucks on the street?
Is Donna King still here? She was here earlier. I think she might have snuck out. The Bucks on the Street program is actually something that was launched through the Buckhead Business Association Foundation as a way to generate some excitement in the community, and they've designated all of the proceeds from those to go to support LBI's green space activities. So it's a tremendous program. We've got a flyer on it in the back. What you're seeing is the bucks that are out that are sponsored already. Those are also going to be auctioned off later this year. So all of the donations from that, all of the, if you want a buck in your backyard, make a fountain out of it, you can do that, and all of those donations will be tax deductible to go to green space. So it's, again, well, there's Donna, she snuck in. It's, again, another great program, an example of how the different organizations are working together. Donna, do you want to add to that at all? No? Okay.
Got a question?
Yes. Have you looked at possibly any larger areas in Buckhead that you could maybe create a community park, maybe not as large as Midtown Piedmont Park or downtown Centennial Park, but sort of like, you know, because as far as I know, there are small pockets of different parks, but this would serve as an open area where all residents could go and where you could possibly have some community events, open air events, maybe small acts, performance acts during the summer, sort of enhance that lifestyle, and not to say compete with Chastain Park, but to be that open area, open space where everybody can basically go and enjoy some maybe live entertainment and so forth.
Before Denise answers that question, I'm going to ask you a question. What's wrong with Lennox Square parking lot?
You basically could have been a spokesperson for the plan just then. We do have 2 central gathering spaces that are in the plan, one in the commercial core and one down in the village area. And one of the things that is really interesting right now, the Atlanta History Center is opening up its grounds, and they're doing it on a trial basis with the surrounding neighborhoods right now, and they may actually open it up in the future on a bigger scale. They've got 33 acres over there, so it's tremendous. But you're exactly right that we've got to have that area that is sort of the anchor for the community where we do our festivals and we activate that and use that space to help create that identity. So we do have that built into the plan. We also have anticipated that in our zoning. The 2 districts that I just mentioned both have incentives in there to make those gathering spaces happen.
But it's not easy to retrofit an already significantly built out area to put green space infrastructure. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Is there an opportunity for companies to become partners in that recycling with the Better Buildings Challenge?
Definitely. Definitely. We will be, actually, if you'll give your contact information to Tom right there.
I've already got
it. Who will hook you up.
Nothing else? We did a good job of putting all this together, didn't we? I want to thank the Buckhead Theatre for giving us this space at a significant discount. I want to thank all of you for coming here. I want to thank the staff of both LBI, BATMA, and the CID for the hard work that they've done to make this happen. And I'd like to close, if you don't mind, with the sales pitch. We've got a very significant, extremely important opportunity in front of us right now. I've described for you how a CID works. Let me tell you, the people who invest in that CID do it gladly because they understand where their money is going. They know that we've carefully considered how we're going to invest that money. They know that we're able to leverage additional funds to come into the CID to make those improvements. this transportation referendum that you have an opportunity to vote on today even, but absolutely on Tuesday, the 31st of July, is, the way I see it, a regional CID, where taxes are going to be collected for a defined period of time to be spent exactly in the area where the tax is collected, the 10-county Atlanta region, to make very specific transportation improvements that professional transportation planners and engineers have been working on for years and have been recommended to the local government officials. And as a region, they got together and said, this is a good tool of project, it's a good political compromise so that everybody gets benefit out of this, and it's a way to cooperate as a region to solve a regional problem and to put our own skin in the game. And the federal government, the Department of Transportation and the Federal Transit Administration have said, if you guys get your act together and start putting your skin in the game, we are going to be really interested in playing with you and sending tax dollars back to you to leverage what you're going to do. This is the biggest thing in my lifetime that we have a chance to do. I've already voted yes. I encourage you to vote yes. If you want to vote no, that's your decision, but make sure you're well informed and you're doing it for the right reasons. I implore you to really consider voting yes on this. Thank you very much for being here today. We hope that you enjoyed this. We intend to do this annually, and if you have suggestions for how we might do things differently to improve it, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much for coming. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great weekend. Denise, thank you.